Hey guys, I wanted to make another video because I've been fielding a lot of questions lately about tourism. How does it work? Why should I care? Is it just if I'm going for a culture victory? Etc. To begin, let me say that unless you're going for a quick domination victory, tourism is important. The purpose of this video is to show how easy it is and how little effort you need to put into it to make it work for you. I'll try to keep this as short as possible because I know when I first started getting into this aspect of the game, it seemed like a lot of stuff to keep track of. And if you're going for a culture victory, it kind of is. However, I'm going to be touching on the bare minimum for when you're not going for a culture victory. Now, if you're still with me, let me give you a brief description of how it works. The most direct way to develop tourism is to create great works of writing, art, and music. This is done by expending great writers, artists, and musicians. In order to do that, you need to work the specialist slots in the associated guilds. Also, and this is very important, you need slots for the great works you create to go into. Alright, so let's look at the game I'm currently in. I'm actually off to a pretty good start. I got the first religion, it's enhanced, and as luck would have it, the only other religions that have been formed thus far have been from civs I haven't met yet. It would appear I'm off to the west, so I'm probably going to have a pretty strong religious game. Persia doesn't even have a pantheon yet, so I'll probably be able to spread it to them, and pretty much this whole western ball will probably be mine. Anyways, it's turn 95. I just finished the National College, so what I'm going to do now is just build the Writers Guild. Okay, now it's turn 99, and I've just finished building the Writers Guild. As you can see, we've got writer specialist slots over here. The building itself is providing one great writer point each, and for each of these slots we'd fill, we'd be not only increasing our culture by 3, but we'd also be creating 3 great writer points. Now ideally you'd want to fill both of these up. I'm not going to right away for 2 reasons. The first is my capital's not quite developed enough to be able to spare the citizens. We're on our way to silver service, and I've got multiple farms built on rivers, so it's not going to be a problem for long. But more importantly, and I'm sorry I said this guy was going to be easy, but this is one part that's a little complex. It's a little advanced. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to mention it anyways, just in case you feel like it. I favored theology early because I'm playing as the Mayans, but basically I'm going for civil service and then education, which I recommend you do unless have some aggressive neighbors and you need some of the more military style techs. Going for civil service and education is a great way to start most games anyways. But here's the thing. I've already finished out the tradition tree, and whatever policy I choose next, I mean, obviously I'd like for it to be rationalism, okay, but you have to be in the Renaissance era to get there. Right now it's looking at 6 turns for civil service, 11 for education, and then if we win acoustics next, that's 17, 35 turns it's going to take me. As you can see, our culture is going to be 25 turns before we get our next social policy. It looks like in this particular game I'm going to have to go with a filler policy before rationalism, which is not a problem. This is actually true of most games. If you can, it's really nice if you can go straight from your opening tree straight into rationalism. I have done it before, and the one time I did it, it was specifically because I did not fill up the Writers Guild right away, because like I said, each one will increase your culture by 3. So if I worked both, that'd be plus 6. Right now, plus 15. I mean, that would be an instant 40% increase in culture, which is going to accelerate our next social policy. Because it looks like I'm going to get a filler policy anyways, it might be something I end up actually doing, like if I had the population to devote to these. It might be, because you want to try to time it to where as soon as you enter the Renaissance, you're able to open up rationalism and secularism especially. It's really hard getting a feel for how to time that. Mostly you can disregard that. Like I said, in this game it looks like I'm going to have to take a social filler policy anyways. So when I have the culture to do so, or when I have the citizens to do so, I'll probably start working these slots. And I'll include that in the video. For right now, the important thing is the Writers Guild is built. Now, something you can do at this point is, as you notice, we're talking about writers. So far, if you go to the Tourism tab, and you go to Your Culture, this will show all the great work slots you have currently. And right now, as you can see, the only one I have is the Great Work of Art slot that comes with your palace at the start of every game you play. So we don't even have any great works of writing slots right now, and if I was to fill these 2 right now, I believe I'd have a great rider pop out in about 15 turns. So what I normally do at this point is I'll build the National Epic. The National Epic increases great people generation by 25% and provides you a great work of writing slot. Typically, the other way to get great work of writing slots is by amphitheaters, which comes with drama and poetry, which is something you got to take on the way to education anyways, and civil service. So you're going to be taking this fairly early in most games anyways. Anyway, so that's where you can get your great work of writing slots. Also, the great library, which I do not recommend you try building, but if you do build it, that comes with 2 free great works of writing slots. But you're not going to need that. Like I said, this video is supposed to be to show you how easy it is. If we have amphitheaters in each of our cities, and the National Epic, and then later we'll build Oxford University, all those things together will give us, what, 7 great works of writing slots, and we're not going to produce 7 great writers throughout the course of the game. And the reason for that being is that writers, artists, and musicians all share a pool. And this is part of the reason why we want to get the Writers Guild going first, because we're going to have 7 slots of writing, but through the course of this video we're probably going to only have about 4 slots of art and music. And every artist and musician you produce will make the next writer cost a little bit more as well. So, and that's part of the reason why you want to get the writers working early. But like I said, we do not have the citizens, so I won't be working these tiles now. I will go ahead and make the National Epic though. Other buildings that increase great people generation is gardens, which requires you to be built on the river. Leaning Tower of Pisa also increases great people by 25% in all cities. And also, opening aesthetics will do the same for writers, artists, and musicians, but you don't have to take this. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Yeah, so I'll come back whenever I get going, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and build the National Epic so that when I do fill my slots, they'll be generating even more points than they already are. Okay, it's now turn 110. And please keep in mind, I'm only pointing out the turn number for continuity's sake. I am by no means saying this as a standard in terms of when you should be doing these things. I've just finished constructing the National Epic. I'm going to start pre-building the amphitheater. You can see all my expands are doing the same. It's not going to matter too much because in 2 turns we're going to have education, and all my cities are going to switch to universities. But in the last few turns, I've actually grown a bit, and as a result, look at this, my next social polity is in 16 turns. If I take acoustics right after education, now it's going to be 15 turns. So I will actually get into Renaissance before my next social policy. It can be sometimes that you want to get into Renaissance through astronomy, if you've got mountain cities. I do have one, but doing this will actually get me into the Renaissance before my next social policy. And the reason why that's important is because the cost of your social policies is based on a few factors, not the least of which is how many policies you've already chosen. So if I have a filler policy before I open rationalism, secularism is going to cost more. Whereas if I can go straight from tradition into rationalism, secularism is going to cost less than it would if I had to adopt a filler policy. And this is part of the reason why I'm not yet working the Writers Guild slots. Now, once we get near finishing education, and keep in mind, once education's done, I'll start building universities. I'll probably have one up in the capital in 7 or 8 turns. I'll begin working that, which will boost my science, so it'll probably end up being more like 13 or 14 turns total. Anyways, the point I'm getting at is because I want to hold off getting my next social policy before I enter Renaissance, in this case I will not work the Writers Guild, even though I'm starting to get to a point where I could easily get a citizen off of this tile, and we're going to grow one. So I mean, I could have this filled immediately, but the culture gain would grow so much that we would have to choose a filler policy, and the overall science gain would be slower as a result. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, just a quick update. It's currently turn 115. Got a notification saying Palanque has grown. What I did was I tested putting 1 person in the Writers Guild, and look at this. I'm going to be acoustics in 9, And next social policy at 11. If I put that new citizen into the Writers Guild, it's going to be 9 and 9. That would be great. If you can open up rationalism on the turn you hit Renaissance, that means you're going to get into secularism, and I mean, that's literally the best case scenario for your science game. So I just wanted to point that out. Obviously, we're going to have the library or the university before that. We're going to have another citizen before that. So it's not the end of the story, but I just wanted to update that. Okay, turn 119, Palin Q has grown again. And we see that if I put the new citizen into the Writers Guild, it won't actually speed up my next social policy, so that's okay. But it does speed up our next great writer, which will increase our culture. Again, if you can get open up rationalism as soon as you hit Renaissance, that's just amazing. And once you do, you want to ramp up your culture as much as possible. And the Writers Guild is one way to do that. And of course, the great writer I produce will produce a great work, which will start giving us tourism, but also increase our culture by 2 per turn, which in this case is 10%. And of course, we'll be able to amphitheaters after the universities. So once you get to Renaissance, then you want to ramp up your culture as much as possible. And, you know, going after tourism like this is one way of doing that. Okay, it's turn 127, and we got our first great writer. So I'm going to go ahead and create great work. You'll see our culture per turn will go up.
It is no use to...
Hope you don't mind if I skip the intro screen. I want to keep the video's time down. And our tourism went up, too. Anytime you create a great work, go ahead and go into your tourism screen and go to your culture just to see where the great work went. This is for 2 reasons, both of which are moot right now, but still good practice to get into. First of all, you want all your great works going into your capital if possible, or just one city, because there's going to be multipliers later. But also because there's going to be things called theming bonuses. Museums have them, that's why you see they have 2 slots and a blank space. That's so it can list what the theming bonus is. Oxford University and Hermitage are 2 buildings we'll be building that come with a theming bonus. And basically you can rearrange your great works or trade with other people and get a little more tourism out of the works that you have filled. Also, it's kind of beyond the purview of this video, but since I was mentioning opening rationalism, you know, going for the Renaissance and going into rationalism, when I get enough gold, I am going to gift a culture city-state just to expedite my policies into rationalism. But right now what the plan is after I got into Renaissance, I came back and I went to engineering to get the 3rd trade route to feed my capital with. Then I went to metal casting so I can get workshops up in all of the cities. Then I'm going to get guilds so that the Artists Guild can be put in the capital. And then all my cities are going to build amphitheaters and opera houses. And the reason why is because something kind of weird about the game is when you get drama and poetry, you get the ability to create great writers and writing slots. When you research acoustics, you get the ability to create great musicians and music slots. However, when you research guilds, you only get the technology to create an artist guild. You don't get art slots. Now you do get one in your palace from the very beginning of every game you play, so that's kind of nice, but you don't actually get art slots all the way up until Archaeology. And that's kind of a weird tech path compared to this. So one thing that's nice that you can do is to build Hermitage. Now this is a pretty good thing to build anyways. It's +2 culture and +50% culture. So it's a nice culture boost, but it also comes with 3 great works of art slots. So that kind of helps make up for this. And this is part of the reason why you delay building the Artist Guild a little bit. Notice I didn't go straight for it, even though I'm kind of showing how to develop your tourism. So what the plan here is going to be is I'm going to get into printing press as soon as possible. There's a few reasons for this. Obviously, one is to be able to... Sorry, I bumped the mic. One is to be able to found the World Congress, at which point we will propose the World's Fair, and this, you know, makes everybody like us more, and we can put some production towards that. It really helps our culture game. And while we're waiting for that to count out, we'll actually tech into scientific theory, electricity, build Oxford University, use the free tech to take radio, gets us into the modern era, gets us an ideology. So by the time this resolves, we'll have an ideology, and we'll be the first, so we'll get the 2 first tier tenants for being the early adopter will get the free one from the World's Fair, and we'll be well on our way to filling out ideology policies. But also along the way, after we build the printing press, we're going to need architecture to get to scientific theory, and this will allow us to build Hermitage, which, as you can see, has the requisite of opera houses being built in all of my cities. So basically, the plan's going to be, after all the universities are finished, which I'm just a couple turns away from, everybody's going to build workshops, and I'm going to build all the amphitheaters and opera houses so that my capital can build Hermitage. The capital is going to build the Great Artists, or the Artist Guild. You can see we're just about done building the garden to up the Great Person points. Okay, so it's turn 139, and the Artist Guild is finished being built. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it up. Let's see, I'm going to build the watermill just to keep this city being fueled. Let's see, 2 and 3. It's 3 and 3. It's 4 and 3, so that's not good. 3 and 3. 3 and 3. Oh, it's going to be 3 and 3 that way. Okay, I can do that. Alright, now our culture per turn went up a good amount, and we're still going to get a great writer before we get a great artist. And this is really good because, like I pointed out earlier on, we're going to end up with almost twice as many great writer slots as we are a great artist. So if you can not get an artist until you get a couple great writers, that's actually going to be beneficial. Because when you get one of these, you're going to push back the other one a little bit. One thing too I didn't mention, I kind of want to apologize for the integrity of the video. When I was talking about the tech paths and maybe wanting to get Leaning Tower of Pisa, it's something that you should prioritize anyways, because you get a free great person and your great people generation goes up 25%. It's a big deal. And in this video I'm actually going to cheat because I'm playing the Mayans, so I got a free great engineer here, so I will be rushing that. So I apologize for the way that might affect the integrity of the video, but the concepts will still be the same. Okay, it's turn 147 and our next great writer has come out. I did end up going ahead and buying a culture city-state, which upped my culture per turn significantly, allowed me to get secularism, which upped my science game significantly. As if that wasn't enough, one thing I forgot to mention is when you're going to buy a city-state, my only requisite was that it was a cultured one. I had 3 to choose from. Unfortunately, they were all hostile, so my rep's going to degrade faster than normal, which is a bad thing. The reason why I went with Prague is because they have the unique luxury of gold, which I didn't already have. However, I did have a city that wanted it, and I had a city-state that wanted it. So, nice little chain reaction of with that 1,000 gold bought me a whole lot of stuff. As you can see, my military is a little behind as a result of saving up that 1,000 gold, and that's unfortunate because we've already got this guy here. The good news is that I actually have 6 workers and I'm down to only needing 5. So I'm going to take one that I stole from Laventa. Well, I got from a camp that it belonged to Laventa. And I'm going to find out where the camp is and bring it down there and let them steal it and then liberate it and get some free rep that way too. So just, little tips and tricks. Anyways, back to the focus of the video itself. Go ahead and make our next great work. Happiness. And of course we will go into the tourism screen, make sure it went to the right place. And it did, obviously. And it's one turn until the great artist, so I'm going to go ahead and keep the video rolling. Persia. I was actually worried about them because they opened Liberty and then they only planted 3 cities total. And I have them boxed in here pretty well, so I thought they were going to get jumpy, but apparently between proposing the World's Fair and them having my religion, they're satisfied. So that's good. But anyways, the great artist was just generated, so I'm going to go ahead and produce a great work of art. Now again, you always start off with 1 slot in your palace, which is a good thing, because as you can see, because of workshops and universities, I'm actually trailing behind as far as that goes. In fact, this is the last place I have to build an opera house. I'm going to have my last opera house in 17 turns. unfortunately, my next great artist is coming out in 15 turns. And keep in mind, once the last Opera House is built, I still have to build Hermitage in the capital. So we're a little far behind as far as that goes, but that's one of the quote-unquote disadvantages of being so technologically advanced. For this reason, after banking, I probably won't go straight into architecture. I'll probably take economics first, just for the camp gold, since I do have a few buffalo that I've built camps around. I'm going to get to architecture as soon as I can, or Hermitage as soon as I can. Unfortunately, it's going to come right before scientific theory. So I might end up just buying the public school in the capital. I'm not sure. I don't want to wait on the... I might not have the money in time anyways. I don't want to wait because we're starting to get backed up here in the capital. As you can see, I'm finishing up ironworks, which is nice. I get the Opera House in the capital. I'm going to want to build Hermitage because we're going to be waiting on a great work of art slot. If we have to have the artists stick around, just hang out for a little bit, that's not a problem, but I think that I'm going to be able to balance it. I'll probably be able to buy a public school in the capital before I could build it anyway, so maybe I'll stick to Hermitage. And the reason for this is because I absolutely want to have Oxford University built as soon after electricity is finished as possible, so we can use the free tech to get radio and get the ideology going. But anyways, that's where we're at right now, so I'll stop for this bit and come back when we're at the next. Okay, it's turn 152. Not much to say here. I'm kind of getting blindsided by a barbarian, but I'm hoping that means I'll get to give away a worker like I wanted to. Anyways, mile-long count bonus. Because with this video, I'm going to end up with about 7 slots of writing and 4 slots of art and music. I'm going to go ahead and choose a great writer. It does diminish the integrity of the video slightly, but keep in mind it's only 2 tourism, so it shouldn't be too big of an impact on the video itself. But it is the first time we have a great work that can't be housed in our capital, which is fine. Right now we don't have any reason to care about where it is housed. Well, it's up for tourism. Okay, never mind. Okay, it's now turn 162, and I'm done building the Musicians Guild, which I am going to start working. And I'm happy to report I kind of made a mistake earlier. As you can see, there's only one more turn left for Oaksmile to finish the Opera House, be able to build Hermitage. And it's only going to take me 6 turns to build, plus the 1 turn for the Opera House to get built, and then 7 turns I'm going to have scientific theory. So I was thinking I might need to buy public school in the capital. Not going to happen, so I was saving my gold up for it, and now I don't need to. So I'm actually going to be able to purchase 1 more city-state. However, I'm not going to go with a cultured one this time, primarily because our culture game is pretty much in the running now. As you can see, I was able to pick up humanism. And I wanted to mention too that the reason I want to start working the Musician Guild right away is for the culture game, because I'd really like to be able to pick up free thought before we start getting into ideologies. We're getting pretty close to ideology. We'll get 1 more social policy before ideology, and then we can work on ideologies. Anyways, what I was getting at is I'm not going to purchase a cultured city-state because our culture game is pretty much developed, and all the culture city-states in this particular map are hostile, so I won't get as much bang for the buck from my money as I did the first time because of the chain reaction of things that happened. One thing I did want to mention, though, that I hadn't touched base on is the first time I generated a great writer, I actually satisfied a couple city-state quests. The first time I generated a great artist, the same thing happened. And because I had purchased a culture city-state, I ended up getting like 2 or 3 different city-state quests for culture. Clearly in the running for this one, as you can see. So going for this tourism thing isn't just for the immediate benefits. But anyway, since I'm not going to have to buy a public school, I'll get to buy another city-state. and I'll have a little money left to start upgrading my military, which is sorely overdue. So, since I'm not going to go with a culture one, I've decided what I want to go with is Wellington, because the next best thing at this point as far as upping my science game would be a maritime city-state, get some growth going in my cities. You can see they're not doing quite as good as they should. I did get a fourth trade route sending to Cal, so that, because that's my only mountain city, so when I get an observatory up, that's going to be the city I want to be the second highest population. But anyways, the reason why I want to go with Wellington is because it's a ally of Carthage currently, and Carthage has taken Assyria out of the game, so people don't like her. And she's currently at war with Gandhi, so by buying Wellington, I'll get some growth, I'll take an ally away from her, I'll give me an ally, and I'll get somebody off of Gandhi's back. Again, when you're going to purchase city-states, try to take all these little things into account, because this is now the second time I bought a city-state in this game, and it, you know, just as I explained, it had some really strong repercussions. Now I gotta wait for that last opera house to be built one turn, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pre-build Oxford. And the reason why is because I know I'm going to want Oxford I want Oxford to be done as close to when electricity is done as possible, and right now it's looking like Hermitage will keep me through scientific theory, then I'll build a public school while I'm researching electricity, and then maybe build Oxford to get radio, to get the ideology going. So it's just, I think it's kind of lucky that things are fitting together like this, but it just goes to show you that you plan ahead a little bit, and you kind of can make things like this happen. Okay, now see that artist is going to have to sit for a few turns while I build Hermitage. Let me get that rolling before I forget. Yeah, and because we're working all these slots, the fact that Hermitage adds to culture and then also multiplies by 50%, we're going to get a huge culture gain just by building Hermitage. And that's why a lot of people regard it, from what I've read anyways, as somewhat of a must build. However, I can't leave these guys stacked, so let's get you there and maybe upgrade. That's a good use of the rest of my mobility. I'm going to have a hard time shooting these guys down just because, so I should upgrade him as well. Oh, yeah, I don't need to. Anyways, so I got Hermitage rolling, and that'll take me as long as it takes to get to scientific theory. And once Hermitage is finished, we'll have some more great art slots. Okay, it's turn 169, and it's actually a really big turn for the context of this video for a few reasons. We've just hit scientific theory, we have finished Hermitage, and we've produced our first great musician, all in the same turn. So what I'm going to do first is, now that Hermitage is up, we have more great works of art slots and our first theming building, so I want to touch base on that as well. Let's get the public school going here, obviously, and we'll have a new citizen just as long as it takes to build that, so that'll work out nicely. And then we will build Oxford to get radio. Anyways, so let us go ahead and create a great work of art. Our culture will go up, our tourism will go up. And since we created a musician, let's go ahead and do a great work of music as well. Okay, so our culture per turn went up by 4, and our tourism went up by 4 as well. And since we just created some great works, let's go ahead and go to the tourism screen. And look, our first building with a theming bonus. To maximize your bonus, make sure the great work slots are filled with art from different eras and different civilizations. This is not an easy task, but let's see if we can do it. And make sure you can do everything you need to before making any swaps. I found that out the hard way. I won't go into the details. It doesn't even matter here though, excuse me, because we only have 2 great works of art thus far, but once we generate a third, we'll want to come back and revisit this, the potential for this theming bonus. Another thing I forgot to mention earlier in the video is when I've had my first great work go to a different city other than my capital, I forgot to mention that because great works increase your culture per turn, You might want to put it in whatever city you want the borders growing in. Like earlier in the video, you saw it went to Uxmal by default, and I actually wanted it in Tikal. So if I had done that earlier, my Tikal borders would look better. And since we're getting further along in the video, I can start talking about this area of the screen. You can see we're already exotic with India and Persia, and the reason why this is going to matter will come up later, but it's just something to touch base on. Also, we've got another spy. My first spy I just put into Palanque for counterintelligence because I'm the scientific leader in this game. But now that we have a second spy, let's take a look at who the cultural leaders are. So let's go ahead, we'll bring up Info Addict, we'll go to culture, and it looks like it's coming down to us and America. America's above us in culture at the moment. So let's go over to tourism. We're above them at the moment, but they're basically our biggest ally, which is, or opponent, which is really not that big of a surprise because they're actually beating us in score, which doesn't really mean too much. But for this reason, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my unassigned spy into America's capital, Washington. And this is why. Diplomats will automatically conduct propaganda that provides a boost to tourism output to the target civilization. So I'm going to go ahead and do diplomat. And this will help us to combat against him in the tourism department as well. Okay, it's now turn 180, and we've got our next great writer, so I'm going to go ahead and create a great work here.
I fell asleep.
Make sure it goes into the right spot. Yeah, we'll go Chichen Itza, because that's a city that's closer to what I would consider to be contested borders, so we'll ramp up the ability to acquire new tiles. And it was one turn till Oxford University was finished, so now it's finished, and now we get a free tech. Gonna go with radio. This puts us in the modern era, which allows us to choose an ideology, which is quite strong. Another thing it does is it gives us the opportunity to build the Eiffel Tower. Now I wouldn't by any means say that this is necessary. However, it does provide 5 global happiness, which we don't need right now, but you know, it'd be nice. But it also provides 12 tourism, which is almost double our tourism right now, so that's something to keep in mind. Unfortunately, the World Congress met just a few turns before I was going to get my ideology, so I wasn't able to pass World Ideology. I did get World's Fair pass, so I'm going to start working on that. As you can see, second place gives us a free social policy. That's mostly what we're in it for. However, if we can get first and 100% increase in culture, that would be pretty big. As you saw, we're pretty much neck and neck with the United States as far as highest culture development, so that would be a real big deal. You want to get your key ideology policies and be able to finish up rationalism for yet another free tech. So I'm going to go ahead and work the World's Fair. It's kind of a rough timing though, because we did just find some aluminum, and I'd like to be able to put hydroplant up here. I mean, I'd be able to get quite a few hammers off of this river, which would help with the World's Fair as well. So in fact, when it comes to the money situation, I might actually buy a hydro plant here, just because I was looking over the city-states, and really there's no good one to gift really. I'd like to go for a porcelain one because I got a couple that are offering porcelain, but the only porcelain ones are happiness city-states, which I don't really need. The only other maritime city-state would be this one, which I can just now pledge to protect, and there we're almost an ally, not quite. But before I forget, we did finish the Oxford University, so this means we have yet another theming bonus that we have access to, and this one we can actually satisfy. We'll hover over the theming bonuses, and it says, to maximize your bonus, make sure the great work slots are filled with writings from different eras and from civilizations other than the city owned. So we're going to have to trade great works, because the only works of writing we have are from our civilization, and that doesn't qualify. So we'll go to the Great Works tab, and the left column is the writing. And we look down, we see some medievals and only one Renaissance. So we can satisfy, again, I can't stress enough, make sure you can satisfy the theming bonus before you make a single trade. So we absolutely have to have this one, so let's go for that one first. As far as what to trade away, I don't really care. There, we've got what, 3 Renaissance ones to choose from, so I'll just go ahead and pick one, choose swap, and now that's ours. And we can pick any one of these medieval ones. I'm not going to trade with the US because I don't want to help them with any possible theming bonuses they might have. And let's take a break before I decide between Gandhi and Russia, because we got to figure out where the spy is going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the culture screen. We already dealt with America. The next 2 are yellow and red. That would be Russia and Persia. Okay, so Russia and Persia are our next nearest competitors in terms of overall culture. So what I'm going to do now is go to the tourism screen, go to influence by player. You see Persia and Russia here. Looks like Persia's got more culture, but look at the tourism column. Even though we've only got 14 tourism, our effective tourism versus Persia is 21. And I suspect that's because, yeah, they're sending trade routes to us. They're in close proximity, so they're sending trade routes to us, which is bringing tourism back with them. So this spy is actually going to go to Moscow once again for the boost to tourism if you make it a diplomat. So going back to our theming bonuses as far as who to trade with, just like I didn't want to trade with the US to help them with the culture, I'm also going to not trade with Russia here. So let's trade with Gandhi. And again, it doesn't matter what I trade him as long as I don't trade away the Persian one that I need. Either one of the Renaissance ones would be fine. So now I go back in my culture, we find where the Persian one is, we find where the Indian one is. Okay, and we put those into Oxford, and now see how Oxford says +2? Now our tourism is up to 16. We didn't create another great work, we just satisfied a theming bonus. And I could go ahead and put these 2 great works of writing into the capital just to keep them into the capital, but it's really not going to matter until I get hotels and airports. And I do want Tikal's culture to stay up for its border growth. I'll go ahead and put one in just so I don't forget. I'll go ahead and put them both in just so I don't forget. And keep all the great works in the capital. Like, again, it doesn't matter until you get like hotels and airports. Okay. No problem. I've actually got 2 sugars, but they're traded out at the time, so as soon as they come back, I will get that bonus. Alright, everybody's happy with me. Now we got a great musician coming up. And we get to choose our ideology. Okay, I was already working on removing that jungle. I'll give up 2 gold to gain 2 science, of course. Great musician was born, so let's go ahead and create a great work here. You see how it's not much tourism, but we're getting there. Make sure it's someplace we'd want it to. I'd rather it was in Tikal, so let's do that. Now, for the purpose of this video, it doesn't really matter which ideology you choose. I'm pretty sure that since we're early adopter, we get 2 free. I'm pretty sure this rate at which great people are born is increased by 25%. I'm pretty sure that's an option that's available to all ideologies. For the context of tourism, this is helpful. Plus, it helps get your great scientists out quicker, so it's a good one to take anyways. And I'm going to take specialists consume only half the normal amount of food. Now, in my satellite cities, that's not going to be too big of a deal because they're just working universities, but in the capital, we just gain +9 food, which is great because we're working on the World's Fair, and my next citizen I can have working a high production tile, and all citizens after that work high production tiles. Yeah, see, you recognize you're a great musician. You'll satisfy quests just by making these great people, so that's another reason to go ahead and do it. I delegated all my votes by right-clicking instead of left-clicking. Let's see, units need orders. I'll go ahead and finish that mine, it's not important. Go back to the capital. We need to figure out where that archer came from, repair that tile. Uncover the fog. Got another great artist coming up in 3 turns, but the reason why I didn't cut the video off is because of this, the Maya long count bonus. Alright, we remain host. Again, I realize this kind of interferes with the integrity of the video, but I'm still going to cover my thought process here. As you saw, I already took a great writer, and that's unfortunate that we can't take another, because as you can see, we're going to end up with 7 writing slots, 4 art slots, and 4 music slots. So how do you decide between whether to take artist or musician? Because we've got an artist coming up in 2 turns, and we've got a musician coming up after that. It won't be the final musician, but still. So how do you decide? Well, here's my thought process on it. Keep in mind that none of these people have to be used for great works. Great artists, you can instead trigger an 8-turn long golden age, and since we will be coming upon a golden age fairly soon, like if I chose a great artist now and filled up a slot, and then got this one and filled up my last slot, we could use it to trigger a golden age. Musicians, their other ability is concert tour. Basically, you walk into an enemy civ's territory, you have to have open borders with them. You can't cross a line like you can with prophets. And you have them perform a concert tour, which is a one-time tourism game against that civ, and the value of which is going to be 10 times your tourism when it's born. So if I chose a great musician right now, the concert tour would be worth 180, which is absolutely garbage. This is normally something you do when you're going for a culture victory. So I'm not going to go too far into it here. And it is 10 times when it's born. So if you increase tourism while it's still alive, that's not going to change their value. So that's a couple of things to take into consideration. The reason why I think I'm going to take a great artist, even though once this one's born I'm going to have all my art slots filled up, is 2 reasons. Number one, as soon as we get a 3rd art slot, we can satisfy the Hermitage's theming bonus. But the other one is more great art slots are easier to come by than more great music slots. We don't have to build any wonders. All we got to do is get to Archaeology and we can build museums. Now this is also the same time you get to build archaeologists, and they can find artifacts, which means you're going to have more uses for art slots. I'm not going to get into that too much in this video, just because this video is meant to cover the basics of getting a little bit of tourism. This is something you can do to boost your tourism even more. However, it's not necessary because as you can see, we're already exotic with everybody but one, and that's really all you need in the game as far as what tourism can do for you. So anyways, I am going to go ahead and choose a great artist, and by doing so I push the artist that was coming back a little bit. Not a problem, because mostly I was looking to get that 3rd great work of art. So now our tourism is up. We come here. Now we actually have 3 different great works of art, so we can potentially satisfy Hermitage's theming bonus. And just as a reminder, all work slots are filled with art from different eras and different civilizations. Now that can include ours. It doesn't specify not ours like Oxford did. So it can include ours. So let's look at what eras we can cover with our own works. Renaissance, Modern, and Industrial. It's good that we have 3 different eras we can cover. So let's go to Great Works, and we've got Medieval and Classical, and that's all we really need. So that's good. I'll go ahead and trade with Spain. Medieval, well, let's see here. For Classic, I'm going to have to trade with either one of those, which is unfortunate because those are our nearest. I'll trade with Persia, though. So, Medieval from Spain for... I don't think it matters too much. I forget what the museum theming bonus is, so I can't tell you which one it would be best if I tried to keep. So we'll just trade the oldest one we've got. Swap that out. So now we've got a medieval work, and we need a classical work. I'll trade with Persia, because United States is closer to us. Give him our next oldest. Alright, and now we should be able to satisfy this theming bonus by putting the 3 we've got. So already our tourism's up to 23. And yeah, I did have to use a couple Mayan great people to get that high, but even still, without that my next great artist was coming 2 turns anyways, and we didn't need the other artist. So you could be at about this point as well, if you wanted to be. You don't have to be. So okay, it's now turn 191, and the great artist that I had pushed back has finally come to be. A couple updates. As you can see, Persia has settled down a new city, which is great because will allow me to kind of rebuild the religion in this area without having to expend any effort. Another thing that changed along the way is I did not as I talked about, I did not see a worthwhile city-state to buy. So what I ended up doing was I put my money towards purchasing a hydro plant in this city. Ended up with modifiers being something like plus 11 hammers, which is great because the progress on the World's Fair doesn't look like it's going as well as I'd like. I don't think I'll be able to hit 1401 before it's finished. But hopefully the reason why it's going up so fast is there's so many people working on it that whatever I do get to put towards it will be enough. Anyways, let's go ahead and make that great work. And double check to see. We're already up to 25 tourism, which is great. Went into the capital, which is fine for now. And we have hit exotic with America. We've even hit familiar with India. Okay, so... And this was the purpose of the video. I'm going to keep going in this game just to show when others start taking ideologies. But you can see... And what's the point of this is... as you can see, it's classified by levels. Your accumulated tourism compared to their accumulated culture is broken down into brackets. Exotic is the first one after unknown. Familiar is the first one after that. To get familiar, your accumulated tourism has to be 30% of accumulated culture. And that's why this is important. What little effort we've put into developing the tourism, if we get to exotic, that means we're exerting at least 10% versus them. They could be exerting 29% versus us, and we'll have offset that entirely because we're still in the same bracket. Now, like India, for example, they're not going to be able to choose a different ideology from us because they're exotic familiar. They're two brackets. Let's see what their influence over us is. My unknown. So they're in the, they're not even on the bracket, and we're two brackets above them. So if they were to choose a ideology other than us, they would be suffering immediate, tremendous unhappiness. So that hopefully we'll get to see a little bit of that later. Okay, it's now turn 196, and even though I didn't hit my goal of 1401 in time, I was very clearly the winner, so I got 500 points towards a golden age. We only needed about half of them, so I will be interested to see once the golden age is over if I get the rest of those points or if they're just lost. I also get the free social policy for silver, which is mostly what we wanted to participate in the World Games for. But we're also, since we did make first, we get double culture for 20 turns, which is quite huge. So, all very good there. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, we'll take our... Oh, it says adopt policy, not free policy, so that must be the trigger for this from actually hitting it with culture. The reason why I make the distinction is because I'm going to go ahead and take... I'll just take the plus culture for every great work. We've made some, and I don't need the happiness yet. I could take the gold just because I know people, but really Persia's the only one that's going to be sending me trade routes anyway, so we'll just take the culture, even though it's not much. Alright, now the reason why I made the distinction between the policy and the free one, well, it's not really making the distinction itself, I don't know. But basically, it would be really neat, like if I take sovereignty right now, I don't need the gold. Let's see, 84 up to 96. That's pretty good anyways. But I'm hoping to be able to time... Okay, let's see. It's going to be 6 turns till I get my next tech, or my next policy. And in 6 turns, I'll have steam power done, so I could actually finish out rationalism, get a free tech, take replaceable parts. The only downside to that is in 6 turns I'm not going to have enough faith to buy a great engineer. Not that I think any of these AIs are competing with me for Statue of Liberty. They haven't taken their policy yet, but you can see I did start work on the Eiffel Tower just because there's really nothing else better for me to build at the moment. But that might change. But yeah, we did get that, and in 6 turns I'll hopefully... I think I'll spend it here just to get the free tech from finishing rationalism, help get us to plastics sooner. Obviously at this point I'm kind of going for a science victory, but this is kind of the point. When your science is this high, you can really go any way you wanted. Like, I could have actually taken the tenant that gives you the 6 freedom fighters. I could have taken that as my first level 2 policy, and my army would have like quadrupled in strength. So even if you're going for like domination, you can keep your military low and use this plan of attack I've been using so far to do a military search. Like I could just get the freedom fighters when I got my second tier policy and go take Persepolis with a couple archers to help them out. I'll be going for science here, but the point is you don't have to, and because we're doing all these great works and stuff, our culture is just through the roof with the Hermitage and everything else. So that's where we're at right now. This is actually, I've got pagodas and mosques up everywhere finally. I'm not going to have the faith to buy a great engineer when I get Statue of Liberty open up, but shortly thereafter. So that's where we're at for now. It's turn 199. My next musician has come out, so I'm going to go ahead and make another great music. Notice how my tourism's 25 and his value for the rock concert is 250. This, like I said, this will never change. It's not like a great scientist where it's based off the last 8 turns, or even, I believe a great writer works that way as well, but it's 10 turns when he's born. They'll never get they'll never get stronger than that, so I'm just going to make a great work, even though we're pretty much past the point of tourism that we need. We'll go in and check where it went. Don't really care. Well, Chichen Itza's over, it looks well anyways. So there's that. And I do have enough money to buy another city-state, and my faith is pretty much maxed out, so I think I'm going to buy a religious one. Typically in the early game I tend to buy cultured ones because that most directly translates into science. In the mid-game I tend to go for the maritime because that most directly translates into science. And then in the late game I prefer the faith-based ones. One thing I could do is I could buy Malacca. I don't need the happiness, but I would take an ally from Russia and I would stop it from warring with India, which is helpful. They're currently looking for donations, so I would get a lot more rep with them. And they'd give me porcelain, which would up my maritime city-state here, up my rep here, but none of that really is as good as what faith would do for me right now, because I want to get that great engineer out, and usually you can buy like 2 great engineers and at least 2 scientists if you have a decent faith game, so this is where I want to spend my money now. I just renewed my friendship with Darius. I just renewed open borders agreement, so I'm not too worried about the backlash of taking this ally from him. Another factor to consider is I would have liked to have taken an ally from Carthage because they built the Forbidden Palace, so it looks like she's going for a culture victory, but we're still doing better than she is, and yeah, so there's that. Okay, it's now turn 210. A quick update on how the game is going. I did take the second tier freedom ideology or tenant called Volunteer Army. Gives you 6 Foreign Legion units. They're quite strong, and it also makes 6 of your units upkeep free. Now, what this means is, say my freedom or my Foreign Legions all get killed, I'll still have 6 free units. Like, that part of it will never go away. But anyways, so I've done that, and the other thing I did was, since the only other policy I'm going to want from here is the ability to buy spaceship parts with gold, which won't come for a very long time, what I've done is I've decided to open up the piety tree, and I'm also going to put organized religion and mandate of heaven, just because I am going for a science victory. Faith is science at this point in the game. So, as much faith as I can generate and as cheap as I can make the things and people I buy with, the better off I'll be. Anyways, another factor, none of the other civs have chosen an ideology yet, but I still want to talk about the World Congress. I'm going to go ahead and propose world ideology as freedom. Nobody else has an ideology yet, so it'll probably pass, and the whole purpose of this video is to teach you how to be able to use tourism to fend off opposing ideologies. And one way to hold off opposing ideologies is to adopt a world ideology, which is much easier to do when there aren't any ideology. Another thing you can do, I should point out real quick, is, well, let me make that commitment. And before I do that, I just want to also show you that if you choose world religion, you will up your capital's tourism output by 50%. So that's something you can do. I didn't do it because it would have upset too many people too early in the game. But I still wanted to bring that up because it's very germane to this video. But let me go ahead and pass or propose this. And now every city I have
I
a
trust you are
diplomat
a
in,
friend to
I can
liberty.
actually trade with them and buy their
Go ahead.
votes. If I was to do this, you want to do it later rather than sooner. The reason why is because Dito's already built the Forbidden Palace, but let's say she hadn't, and I traded with her right now for her votes, and then she built the Forbidden Palace. Those 2 votes that she got from the Forbidden Palace would not be part of the deal. So the later you can buy it, the better. And in fact, let's say I did want to buy off Dito because she's got the second most votes. I don't know if the city-state votes also transfer when you trade for it. But anyway, say I wanted to do that with her, I would need you need to provide for some time. I think it's like 5 turns. You move your spy, and it takes like 5 turns for them to get acquainted. So I would want to move it into Dito's capital if I wanted to buy her votes. Um, when this says like 6, maybe. It's up to you. Like I could move them right now, but the whole purpose of where they're placed right now is to modify my tourism output. As you'll recall, we have them in America and Russia. And you can see, even though my tourism is 39, I'm affecting America as 40, as if it was 48. Same with Russia, and that's because we have the diplomats there. So if I move the diplomats now, I'd reduce the amount of tourism I'm accumulating against them. It's a trade-off. You can do it either way. You don't want to miss that timer though. So what I might end up doing is Russia has the 3rd most votes, so at the last minute I might move my diplomat from America to Carthage and buy their votes to make sure world ideology freedom passes. Because if it does and somebody else is dumb enough to choose not freedom, it's pretty funny what happens. I even had a game where they were forced to take freedom by their own citizens. So, anyways, I just wanted to mention the World Congress mechanic since I don't think I've gone that in depth until now. Okay, it's turn 216, and I'm just going to do a quick bit here. I've generated my next writer, nothing new. Go ahead and create a great work. I could
Non
have balled him
sequitur,
at this
Commodore.
point. Doesn't really matter one way or the other. We have enough tourism to be at least exotic with everybody, but the more brackets you can climb, the more of an effect you can have on other people, and the more of an effect you can stop them from having on you. So that's why I'm going to continue to build the great works here. And I would like my borders to grow the most in Tikal, so that's what I'm going to do. Also, I teched into, after plastics, I teched into chemistry and fertilizer just for the extra production and growth. After that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start heading down this upper line. I still haven't built the observatory in my one mountain town. And I also want to build hospitals and medical labs for the most growth, which is the most science, because I'm going for a science victory. But also I'll pick up archaeology along the way, which is handy because I've got a, a great artist coming in 7 turns if the musician doesn't push it back. So I'm not going to have a museum up in that time, but it would be nice to be able to make a museum. And then I can talk about archaeologists too, although that's really outside the purview of this video. This video is meant to show off how simple all is. You know what just occurred to me too? This is a Persian settler. They had already sent one down here and a bunch of military units. So I wonder if there's a barbarian camp down here that has a Persian settler in it. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, it's turn 222. A few updates. I forgot to mention that when I came off of Golden Age, I did have like over 300 points right away. Obviously, I couldn't have got that from my own happiness, so that is left over from the World Games, which is nice. Um, my religion has more or less repaired itself in this area. It will soon. You can see we got a couple more cities over here, which is kind of nice because that'll help make my religion resonate a little better. Help get that gold back up. Speaking of gold, I'll go ahead and buy a religious city-state. I still don't have enough to do that. So I will go ahead and pay to put this one back over the top, which will get us silver, which I no longer have because I stopped trading with Darius for it because my happiness was starting to dip a little bit, and now that I'm done with fertilizer and chemistry and got research labs coming up here and there, I'll be able to focus on just full out growth. Anyways, and in fact the techs are flying by now as a result because I do have the Statue of Liberty up and I do have the tenant that makes each specialist produce 1 food. So each, well, consume one less food. I look at it as producing a food. So each specialist is basically producing a food, a production, 2 science, and whatever else they're doing. So I'm working every slot I can. In fact, right now I'm building a market in the capital. Next is coming archaeology, so I'll actually be able to get a museum up in the capital before I have my next great artist, which is kind of nice. I wasn't expecting that to time out that way. And that was, in fact, our last music slot. Not the worst thing in the world. We can use this to provide a tourism bomb, although don't really need to. We're not going for a culture victory, so I'll look into what wonders have slots yet and see if they're already built. They're not a priority to me. If nothing else, now that Carthage was nice enough to set up shop right here, we can just tourism bomb her. Yep, so that's where we're at now. We got a writer coming. Is that a writer? Yeah. Oh, artist. Do I have any place to put a good work of art yet? I do not. However, I want to research archaeology. I'll have that done in 2 turns, and then I'll build a museum. And we can talk about archaeologists at that point. Okay, it's turn 225. I just finished researching archaeology, so I'm going to go ahead and build a museum in the capital so I can get a couple of more art slots. Also, and this is again beyond the purview of this video, but just in case tourism is something that is of interest to you, once you finish researching archaeology, you can actually start to build archaeologists. Now these are like workboats slash workers. They're like workers in that they're land-based, but they're like workboats in that they get consumed when you use them, but they're also like workers in that they take multiple turns to consume. When you finish researching archaeology, these things will show up. Antiquity sites. We've only got one within the borders, but I've got one here, one there, one over here. These 2 will get within my borders right away. This one I can work. And they don't have to be in your borders. You can send them even into other people's borders and work the sites. Like if this was within the border of a city-state and you worked it, when you're done working it, it'll give you a prompt. Do you want to make this a some kind of special site, or do you want to dig up an artifact? When you dig up an artifact, you can put it in any work of art slot, basically. And when I'm done with the museum, I'll show you there's a theming bonus as well. But if you can you'll gain rep with a city-state if you do something, if you work on one of these sites and their lands and you make it into a site. I forget the name of it, but if you take an artifact from there, you'll take a diplomacy hit or a reputation hit. If you go into enemy territory and dig up one of their sites and actually take the artifact, I don't think you actually get a diplomacy hit. They'll say basically, don't come to our lands anymore. And if you say screw you, obviously you'll get a diplomacy hit. And if you say okay, we will, but then you go ahead and do it anyways, you'll get a diplomacy hit. So you can steal once per civ. I'm not going to pursue that here just because I've got all the tourism I need, really. I mean, I'll go ahead and dig up the ones that are nearby, maybe build another museum or 2, but I've got hospitals and research or medical labs coming up. I want to build a hotel and an airport in the capital. I'm going to be going for the space program in Hubble since I'm going for a science victory, but I thought I'd talk about archaeology in general. Oh, there's another one. Talk about archaeology in general, just to give you an idea of more things you can do to up your tourism. Okay, it's turn 229, and I got my first museum built. I've got the observatory up in this city, so that's why I'm building my next caravan. I'm going to send it from some other city to my observatory city. I want that growing almost as much as the capital. Started building hospitals everywhere. This one will build a hospital after this. But now that we have that museum, let's go ahead and bring that into the city. Move my stuff here. There we go. Now we get a great work of art. And now we get to look at what the theming bonus is for museums. Alright, it is both art or both artifact from the same era and either both from the city civilization or both from civilizations other than the city owner. So this should be pretty easy to pull off. got modern here, modern there. There we go. It's just that simple. And that brings us up to 47. And we're pretty much done for now. I think I'll only add to the video when enemies start choosing ideologies, so we can see how that works out. Okay, it's turn 234, and a quick update. My capital is in between building a hospital and building a medical lab. So I'm actually going to go ahead and build a broadcast tower for two reasons. Number one, I mean, it's a pretty big culture boost anyways. I mean, +1 culture and then +33%. I mean, this city's got a lot of culture in it. So there's that, but also because it's going to create a great work of music slot. I'm actually out of music slots, and it's my last, probably in this game, mile long count. So I'm going to go ahead and take a great musician. And with the broadcast tower, then I'll basically be able to make use of that. Also, I've taken gold and started upgrading some of my units because I'm getting near the end of the game as far as my science game goes. I did want to point out, for those who don't know, this is just a general tip. You might have noticed I haven't popped a single great scientist since my first one to make an academy here. And the reason for that is because how much a great scientist is worth bulbing it actually depends on the last 8 turns of your science game. So I've only recently got up my 4th medical research lab. Excuse me, research lab. That's the science one. So basically, if you can wait till 8 turns after all your research labs are up, that's a good time to start bulbing them. Plus, you're going to be growing in citizens, so you're like I've already sent a second food trade route to Tikal since it's my observatory city. So basically, the later you can wait. I mean, I built a market here. I'm going to eventually build a bank. You know, each specialist with secularism is another 2 science. So the later you can get away with bulbing them, the more they're worth. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, it's turn 240. World ideology has passed, and the first AI has finally adapted an ideology, and they went with freedom. Now, I don't know if they wanted to or not, but they kind of had to once world freedom. I'm kind of hoping another civ will pick not freedom so I can show what that's about. But also I finished up the broadcast tower, so I can go ahead and take my musician and make yet another great work of music. Also, I moved my spies back to where I wanted them to be since I was done buying boats. Let's go ahead and make sure everything looks good there. It's in our capital, of course. I'll be building a hotel probably in an airport after I get my research lab or medical lab up. Of course, I'm also going to want to put a stock exchange so I can work the specialist slot for the extra science there. Okay, it's turn 244, and finally, what the video is all about gets to be shown. As we can see here, we've got to notice that Carthage has adopted the autocracy ideology. I have freedom, Washington has freedom, and freedom has been passed as the world ideology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to my culture, and we're going to see that versus Carthage, we're familiar. We're actually 2 brackets up from unknown. And we'll track America. America is exotic. So Carthage has 3 brackets of freedom pressure against her. And what this leads to is if you go to culture victory, look at that, revolutionary wave. She's getting -36 unhappiness, well, 36 unhappiness as a result of choosing autocracy. This can lead to any number of things. It could lead to her cities revolting and being given to other people. It can lead to her citizens basically overthrowing her ideology and choosing freedom instead, which means the 2 policies she chose for autocracy would be wasted. And this can go in reverse, okay? If everybody had chosen autocracy first and then I chose freedom, that would be my unhappiness. And this is why just this little bit of tourism is so important, because that's a lot of unhappiness. And you needed the culture anyways, you know, to get this far in the tourism helps do exactly that. Like, because we are a familiar against Carthage, Carthage could have picked autocracy first, and then we pick freedom, and she would be the one getting the unhappiness, not us. Because let's actually go to Carthage. She is unknown to everybody, so everybody's ideology is just going to weigh down on her, and that's the point. So anyways, I'm going to end this video here, I think. I've bored you to death. For those interested in the progress of this particular game, once I hit radar, I'll bulb. Once I hit rocketry, I'll bulb. Once I hit satellites, I'll bulb. I will buy a great engineer to rush the Hubble telescope, which will give me 2 great scientists. I'll put all my faith into great scientists, which I do now have that policy and piety. So just to give you an idea of what that does. Oh, apparently it doesn't apply to great people. Well, I learned something today. Okay, so we'll end the video on that embarrassing note. I hope this has been educational. I hope it's been fun. It's been fun to make. Any questions at all, leave them in the comments or catch